Hey, I'm Zoë LeClerc. We're going to be doing a piece called The New Stressament tonight, so, sit tight. Feel the beat in your heart, the ritual is about to start. You are all the sacrifice, so whip out your blades and serrated knives. I've seen the life leave from eyes, so don't think I flinch at a blade slice. I won't even tense at the presence of a scythe. Death is the ultimate price. And I'm broke as hell, so that's not even an option. So I'm obliged to live only to die, a similar situation as the rest of the population, who continue to serve the prosecutor's consensus of an extensive, existentiality excessive, savage sentence, the one we're all trying to knock some sense in, a fight against a pure offense created by the natives who were infiltrated, by which to them were alien-like abominations who brought all sorts of ailments and evils to their people that interrupted the structured pace, the humane growth of the human race. See, it all began as the journey of man. But at a point we picked up the pace, started running from the thoughts of confronting foreign thoughts, terrified of what could be inside. They began to pace less for a marathon and settle more into a sprintly jaunt. Now a fire consuming to burn out versus being water that flows down, reconverts, achieves its worth, gives tenderly to the earth, trembling down in a steady stream versus frantically fleeing, neck whipping back to glance at the scene. Your instinctual attack triggered by being backed into a corner, which is actually a metaphor for the horror of being left for the first time to their own primitive device. They built devices, and demons were born, given names like diseases, famine, and chronic pain. You see, we were given all the resources we needed to thrive. Instead, we derived nutrients from the one fucking fruit we were blatantly warned just not to sink our teeth into. Specifically specified to simply not open Pandora's private box, a species-wide flaw, the need to proceed to do whatever we want, like Cartman from South Park, whatever, I do what I want, that insatiable tendency to look directly at a refugee and taunt one working tediously to unearth firmly rooted bitter seeds, no longer capable of a fix. We switch to simply tweaking it, hoping that the tinkering can restructure our damned way of thinking. The lessons are spelled out in every language, same rephrased praises, basic commandments, even illustrated, consistently twisted, recreated, reconverted. And was it with the purpose of translation so everyone could grasp with their own way of hand? Or were the directions maliciously misconstructed differently to make things fucking interesting, like a puppet in the spotlight, high-strung strings, because who doesn't like a good fight? A book, I suppose, would probably close if the pages didn't rip, the plot didn't twitch and twist. Would it all be redundant? Would we continue to toil from the beginning if the ending was historically spoiled? And that's why your textbook reads more like candy-coated fairy folklore, decided fairly by the ones who crave the power to decide to hide the laid-out guide right before our eyes. Dirty fingers dip into all the lakes until putrid pools marinate like a marionette scared to death, held securely but led to believe they hung upon a single swaying frayed string. Oh, wouldn't it be interesting if rules were followed like a beaten-down path versus fueled by fear whipped into our backs? What if we weren't forced to run our lives like a maze's course? Wouldn't it be insane if we would all let ourselves obtain happiness that seems to elude us? Wouldn't it be ridiculous to rid the world of sicknesses? What a wild and crazy dream to purify the energy and to clean, to rebury the fossil fuels and let them rest from the abuse of tools. What a psychotic delusion that our scarcity problem is just flawed distribution. Some people laugh as if it were funny, as the fantasy of no child ever going hungry. The picture we painted, wholly entitled Worship is Sacred, an unattainable, prodding reminder that we were born tainted. The most celebrated original self-depiction originating from fiction, so somewhere in the script we got flipped from the first edition villain to disciples on a mission, hating what they call Beelzebub, refusing to identify that he is us. Most men would not revel in the knowledge that the devil himself is who he embodies. Psyches would break, pandemonium would overtake, the world would end as we burn at the core that orbits around the solar flume pit. What did we name it? Hell. The story has already been told, damned from the beginning. How could we keep pretending that we're not just procrastinating the ending? Why do you think people are so ferociously defending this God who represents hope for repenting, the natural, validated, spiritual representation of our saving graces that were ritualized and reprised into something called religion, which is a police force there to enforce moral codes like the laws of our own? Heaven isn't a place, earth is home, hell is just a universal prison. We couldn't handle the raw truth. We were all pre-committed to an endless institute, to. The ones deemed crazy, the only ones enough to bravely confront an estranged theme, rewarded handsomely with tantalizing trauma, snatch it back whenever it wants to, micromanaged by brain damage. Ignorance is sin, not bliss. And the answer lies in mindfulness. Observe and address, don't ignore and neglect. Misplaced, complacent comfortability is the root of all vulnerability.